underscoring that how difficult it's going to be. And I said that from day one, that I'm up against a candidate who's formidable. And he's won 3 elections. But, you know, I think that sometimes when you won 3 elections, you start getting a bit complacent. And I think that's what people are seeing. That's what people are seeing in terms of Labour in general. They're seeing them as being a bit complacent. And I have to give him hands down, though, that he's got the noisiest crowd here.
Parakura Horomia, before we go to the break, I just want to ask you, you know, you guys get on very well, you're cousins, you're close, so how difficult is it to take on Derek Fox in this?
Oh, look, Derek is well known in the media. You know, he certainly is par excellence in relation to communications, and I don't, for 1 minute, underestimate my relation. My son's come here tonight to see his Uncle Derek, so I hope he's going to vote for me. But you know, there's some relevance in relation to the worse off and poverty preaching that's going on from the Māori Party. Māori have come off the benefit 4 times quicker than Pākehā, Asians, Chinese, anybody else. They've gone into the workforce 4 times as quick. And when you've got a growing youthful demographic, of course it'll average it out. So we've got to get the facts right. And Māori are a lot better off than they ever were before. OK,
thank you very much, Parakura Horomia, and also Derek Fox there. Now, do stay with us after the break. We're going to be debating foreshore and seabed.
News when you want it.
You'll always be able to access the most up-to-date news
on TVNZ 7.
And breaking news.
Backed by the nation's biggest news resource, One News.
It was a significant physical assault.
With updates on the hour, every hour.
We'll now cross live to report.
Now the government wants to clamp
South
down.
Auckland Police are continuing their hunt.
And a full hour-long bulletin every night at 8.
For more information, we cross live now.
A longer look at the day's big stories.
Stories that count.
It's news for New Zealanders throughout the day on TVNZ 7.
New Zealand stories.
Time to get up, or are you still sleeping? Oh, stay tuned.
Discover the road we've travelled.
We set off like ladies to the war.
The events that shaped us.
Is Asian immigration causing any problem?
Moved us.
We had no idea what did happen was going to happen.
Our people. Our future.
Some special stuff has come out of New Zealand sheds.
These are our stories. By New Zealanders for New Zealanders. Made in NZ. Every day on TVNZ 7.
Welcome back. The controversy over the ownership of the country's foreshore and seabed led directly to the founding of the Māori Party. Wallace Chapson's been looking at how the foreshore and seabed impacts now on Ikaroa Rāwhiti.
The foreshore and seabed. Hone Harawira once said that Labour's foreshore and seabed legislation was the greatest theft in a generation, and repealing it would be his top priority. Labour's actions on this land in 2004 gave birth to the Māori Party, and it saw thousands of Māori hikoi from Ikaroa Rāwhiti to Parliament. But now iwi are signing deals with the government under the law. Ngāti Pāhauwera are the latest to sign up. Parakura Horomia says the law protects Māori rights.
The activity where we would go to the foreshore to get kai all the time, food, you've got to protect that now. You get good protection, and Māori are good at that, but at the same time sharing the access and everything else. You know, there are people who pillage the food, who have enough money to buy the foreshore and block other people out. So I'm very supportive of that, and you know, time will tell.
But Derek Fox says Māori access and customs should be independent of the Crown, and in this electorate, a vote for the Māori Party is the only way to ensure that.
Māori need to stand on their own feet politically. They're standing on their own feet in terms of television, in terms of health services, in terms of a range of things. And it makes sense to stand on your own feet politically, to be responsible yourself for all of your political ramifications and aspirations.
Now, Jason Koya is a local treaty rights campaigner. He's a coordinator for over 40 treated Waitangi claimants in the East Coast Inquiry. And Jason, you've got a question.
Yeah, I've got a question for Derek. It's about the Ngāti Porou Runanga who facilitated the Ngāti Porou Foreshore and Seabed Deed of Settlement under the Foreshore and Seabed Act. Now, this deed was signed by Parekura. It's been introduced into Parliament as a bill. If this bill becomes legislation, it will prohibit any personal group from inquiring into the deed's validity. before any tribunal or court. It's just as rotten as the Foreshore and Seabed Act. So my question simply to you, Derek, is if this eventuates, would you be prepared to repeal it, go to the United Nations with further grievance, or perhaps directly to the Queen?
Well, it's a very fascist sort of bit of legislation, isn't it? If it says you can't possibly go back and look at it again. Look, the reality is, if we look at the foreshore and seabed legislation, if Robert Mugabe did what Helen Clark and Parakura Horomia did, Helen Clark would be jumping up and down all over the place at the United Nations. The reality is, not just the theft occurred, but worse than that was the fact that this government, supported by my whanaunga, are willing to take away our right to go to court to see whether we have a right. That's what the number of the foreshore and seabed is about. And to make it even worse, there are 12,500 other people around the country who have bits of paper that say they own the foreshore and seabed. Only Māori were prohibited from being in that position. So we had a theft, and then we had the ability to go to court taken away from us. And I really can't believe that the Labour government that purports to be very supportive of Māori people did that.
Okay, Jason, do you want to reply to that?
Well, I don't really know if you answered my question, but like
the answer is yes. Then I have no doubt in my mind that we have to move to repeal it.
And Derek, how far would you go? To the Queen?
Well, no. I don't know what the Queen can do. I mean, she agreed to the last one, so I don't know how good that's going to be. Her ancestors have been thieving stuff off us for centuries, so you know.
Parakura Horomia, some fairly harsh words there. Fascist legislation, a comparison to Mugabe.
Oh, well, you know, the issue is harsh words can bounce off tough people, and let's be clear on the legislation. What would have happened if the court said no? What we've also learned in this country, that the lawyers and the legalese trough have sucked off Māori for a long, long time. And what I'm very clear on is ensuring that the rights are in the legislation for Māori's sake, because they're not. You can't even build an outside toilet anymore without having to go to Ming to get a permit. You can't even get water out of the river without going to Ming to get a permit. And at the end of the day, what this legislation does is ensure the rights of Māoris. Take the other shot. And there are a whole lot of things happening with the takutai moana. The kai is raupatu, and people sitting in this gathering know that. The issue about very rich people blocking off, and there are people who have title to it, like at Muriwai out here on the mudflats, the Māori have the title to it. And the issue with us is that there are 7 iwi now who have seen fit, after considering the legislation, to come forward and to get into a partnership with the Crown. And I think that's strong governance, and that's looking forward. Paha would have done that, Ngāti Pro are considering that, Whānau Apanui are considering it, and 3 other iwi up north.
Is this partnership a bit like the treaty? You know? Is it a bit like that sort of partnership where Māori people are still out there saying, I've got my half of the treaty, where's yours, Pākehā? Because they disregard the treaty. Now, the reality is, it's a Clayton settlement. There is nothing in the settlements that couldn't be done before the legislation was passed. Absolutely nothing. Now, what has happened, though, is the greater thing is a people's right to go to court to test their right was legislated away, and that's a heinous thing to do.
And it's very, very interesting that you take one side. You know, I would challenge the Māori Party to repeal it when they get in, because that taka here is also on a whole lot of other Māoris who've seen the better part of the legislation. And the blocking of going to court, like I wish we had done that on treaty settlements a long time ago, because at the end of the day, in the sense of the tribunal and the longevity of that, just in a short time, we've shown a difference. And the foreshore and seabed legislation will protect it not only for Māori, both on access, both on maintenance, but also for everybody else in this country.
The point about it is, I heard the Ngāti Pro negotiators say at the time that they were going down to sign this Clayton's deal with the government, that they said they would sooner have the right to have the foreshore and seabed legislation tested. So this is just the Clayton's deal. This is something that people have to try and deal with because there's nothing else available to them. And at the same time, they said if we were to repeal the legislation, they'd be back in boots and all.
And is that something which is going to happen under Māori Party?
Well, if we get the opportunity, if all these good people here and all their whanaunga vote for us, and we get the 7 Māori seats,